Hi there, welcome to this build of a 40-inch wingspan Clancy Aviation Speedy Bee, which if you've been watching the videos up till now you'll know we're more or less finished really. All we've got to do now is just sort out the front suspension, which is a pretty easy job to do. I just need to make a few decisions about how long the axle is going to be, what the configuration of it is going to be, but actually fitting it is really simple. It's just a couple of holes. Once we've got that done, all we need to do is finish this with a finishing sand and get some of the leading edge profiled and finished off, and then we're ready to cover it. So I'm really excited to crack on with this and get this finished now. I mean, the weather isn't particularly good at the moment, so I don't know when I'm going to be getting out there for that maiden flight, but it'll be great to get this done. I'm really looking forward to starting covering it, and I've been thinking about the design, but we'll get to that on the next video. I think that's going to be the covering. So let's get this suspension and axle sorted out. Well, in a previous video we did the groundwork when we were building the fuselage so that it would be an easy job to fit the axle and the suspension. Now we've got the axle box in here, which goes all the way through to the other side. And this is lined with plywood, so it's quite a sturdy construction. And we can see on the inside, we can not only see the axle box here, but hopefully you can see there's plywood on the inside of these cheeks, and that's just 1.5mm plywood, and that strengthens this whole area. Part of that is for the wing lockdown, or the wing and the nacelle lockdown, but part of that is to strengthen where the shock absorbers are going to bolt through. And essentially what we need to do today is decide where we're going to put that hole for the shock absorber, because the axle is going to run through like that, and then we need to decide where we're going to put that hole for the mounting, and I think that's a fairly easy decision. At the moment I've adjusted the shock absorbers so there's quite a tension on that, and I just thought it would be easier rather than having them soft, because then I'm not at risk of altering the length of them when I'm deciding where to drill. Obviously we can adjust the length of this spring, and hence the tension on the shock absorbers, and that will not only help us when we're taxiing to account for the weight of the actual aeroplane itself, but it will allow us to even up the model if it's just sagging on one side. So it's great having that adjustment. Right, well, I've got the fuselage on its side on the edge of the bench, just a couple of weights on it and a bit of balsa just to hold it steady while I'm setting this up. Now the axle box has got 15mm of height in it, so 15mm of potential movement. Now our shock absorbers only have 10mm of movement, which is good, so we can set them up so that it's neither banging on the bottom of the box or the top of the box. And we've got a 3mm axle that we need to take into account when doing that. So I've got a piece of 1.5mm balsa, which I'm going to slot in the bottom of the axle box. I'm going to drop the axle in and then hold that at the bottom of the axle box, and to hold it I'm just going to put an elastic band around the axle under the fuselage, and that will just gently pull it down to the bottom of the axle box. Now with 10mm of movement, that should give us a clearance at the top of a couple of mil, something like that, so it's not banging up against the top. Now all that we need to do now is look through, well, set the shock absorber vertically or in the orientation we want it, and eye up through the eyelet and just put a mark on the fuselage where we're going to drill through, and we're going to drill through a 3mm hole. Now I've got a brass eyelet which will go in the center of this hole to reduce it to 3mm, and that will go through the shock absorber, a couple of washers and then through the fuselage side. Now, to strengthen the fuselage side, I'm going to be putting just a little circle of 1.5mm ply. We've got the ply on the inside of these cheeks, but having it on the outside will allow us to tighten that just a little bit tighter without digging into the balsa, and hopefully it won't kind of work free or a little bit of give in it. So I'm going to get that drilled now and get this set up, and then we'll have a look at the composition of the axle. I'll do both sides now. Right, I thought I'd do a very quick update and just correct something I said that was wrong. These bits of plywood that provide the kind of the strength and the resistance to wear there, and also this piece I've just made a 0.8mm plywood. They're not 1.5mm. I think I said they were 1.5mm earlier. Now I've got this drilled through. The hole I drilled was 2.5mm, and the bolt, if you measure it, is 2.9, and so it just allowed me to screw that in and get a really good secure fixing of that bolt. I haven't put a nut on the back yet, but obviously I will. If I drilled it at 3mm, it would have been slightly bigger than needed and there would have been a bit of movement. So as I said, I've done this 0.8mm plywood sort of strengthener, got a black steel washer, and then I don't know whether you can see that under there, there's a nylock nut and a couple of washers just holding that, and that really is quite nice and firm. This end you can see the brass shim in there just to make this 3mm rod up to 4mm, so it fits inside the eyelet of the shock absorber. And so obviously I'm just going to stick a washer on top of that, and then we're going to have a 3mm keeper like that. Now if we lift this up, we can see this is, hopefully, I don't know how well this shows up on the camera, but this is just off the bottom of that box, and if I push it up, extend it all the way up, compress the shock absorber, it's off the top of the box as well. So that's working nicely. But I just thought I'd show that before I get on and do the other side. Right, well, I've now got both shock absorbers mounted, bolted through. I still haven't got the nuts and the washers on the inside, but they're a good secure fitting, and you can see that works really nice. I've slackened off the tension on the shock absorbers so they're a bit softer, but obviously I will set that up fully when it comes to setting the model up. Basically I've got all the weight on it. Now one thing I've done is I've spaced these so they're 200mm to the outer edges, and that's what it shows on the plan, but you know, you can set it to what you like, but that's kind of roughly like that. And I've got some carbon fibre rod which I've had for ages, and I thought I would just use that as a spacer. You can see it on the axle here, and I can put it on this axle. It just slips over there, and it just makes it look a little bit chunkier and a little bit just a little bit nicer really. And then I can put a collet on the outside. You can see this collet is cocked over here perhaps. That's because it's a 4mm collet on a 3mm piece of music wire. I've got some collets on order, and obviously when I get those I'll be swapping that over. Now if I just turn this, we can see I've got the washer on, the plywood washer, and you can see it lifting up because it's not glued on. I'll glue that on, as I said before, once I've sanded all this. And I've also put the bottom piece of plywood on as well, just to show what it's going to look like. You can see I'm moving, but this is working really nicely. I'm really pleased with it. Now you can see I've got two different wheels on here. Not really sure what wheels I'm going to use. I've got this one. This is a radioactive wheel. This one is something a friend gave me, and I quite like these. It just looks a bit chunkier than this one, but there is a significant weight gain with this, and I don't like that weight gain. So the jury's out at the moment. I've got 2 wheels. I'll see how it goes, and I will probably end up going with the thinner wheels, but we'll see how that goes. Well, it's great to get this suspension all sorted out now, and I can't wait to get it covered and set it up and to adjust those shock absorbers and to get that just right and see how it taxis down the airfield. It's going to be great. Well, I'm going to draw this video to a close now. I know we haven't done a great deal in this video, but I think it's nice to be able to set up the suspension and get it working really well. But I'm going to have to leave you now because I'm off outside with my sanding sticks, and I'm going to give the fuselage and the wings and the nacelle a really good finish. I've also got some fuel proofing to do inside the fuselage at the front here, and also a little bit more inside the nacelle. So I might get that done first and then go and get the sanding done. But the next video now is going to be doing the covering, and I think I might start with the wings. I'm really excited about getting on with that, and I'm going to use a nice traditional bee design, I think. So anyway, I hope you found this interesting and useful. Thanks very much for watching, and please come back and see how we get on covering this lovely Speedy Bee.